That's what counts. So I want to thank everybody for joining us this afternoon for What's New in Arts Organization Support, or with Arts Organization Support. I'm Maya Michelson. I'm the Executive Director of the Indiana Arts Commission, and I'm joined this afternoon by Paige Sharp, who's our Deputy Director of Programs. And we're going to spend a little time sharing with you some of the changes that are coming to the Arts Organization Support Program. Just as a sort of a reminder, refresher for those of you who may have not been following the process along this summer, or have been and have sort of lost track of where we are, I want to talk a little bit about how we got to this space and what came as a result of that, and then the changes that are coming to the program. So I'll start with talking a little bit about our statewide address we did last summer and some of the other process things that have happened as a result of our decision to make changes in the Arts Organization Support Program. So we started this summer with a statewide address called For Everyone in Indiana Living Our Vision. And we outlined a series of steps that we were going to take and invited the field to join along with. We started the process of taking a look at our Arts Organization Support Program and the equity within it by doing an internal evaluation of the data around who we were serving and how many we were serving and where those organizations were, and in particular also who we weren't serving because of how the program was structured. We then shared that information with our commissioners at our March quarterly business meeting, and they agreed with us that it was time as an agency to take a look at equity around the Arts Organization Support Program. And what I haven't mentioned is that back in 2020, the agency adopted a cultural equity statement, and we're going to drop that cultural equity statement in the chat here in a second so you can see that. That was adopted in 2020, and it really helped focus the agency and helped focus our thinking around how we needed to look at alignment of our work as it related to equity. And that includes all our programs and services. And we'd made the determination to start with our largest funding program, Arts Organization Support. And so once the commission gave us the go-ahead to proceed, we did a statewide address to the field back in June, a public address. And then we invited all of our stakeholders to engage with us in the process of looking at the Arts Organization Support Program, led by a team of consultants from outside the agency. We invited the field to participate in funding web discussions. There were sessions on providing input on our grants making. We also did a survey of existing grantees. We also put forth materials for review. We also put together a public Padlet to provide feedback on processes and the program writ large. And so through several months this summer, the field had the opportunity to come alongside and work with the consulting team and let them know how they viewed the program and the impact it should have and the challenges and opportunities it provided. The last piece of the work outside, after we looked at the processes from the consulting firm, is that we brought in another consulting group to take a look at data modeling and how we could come up with the best kind of funding solution to meet the goals and the impacts that the field told us they wanted to see in the program. So, but I want to circle back and talk about what our consultants learned and what we learned as a result of their work. What we heard from our consultants, which is what the field told us, is that targeted support to small and under-resourced organizations is really needed to increase organizational capacity. Again, thinking through the lens of small and emerging organizations in particular. We also heard from the field loud and clear that grant procedures place a significant burden on administrative operations. We also heard from organizations, large and small, that the awards that the IEC provides through the Arts Organization Support Program are not substantial enough to have a meaningful effect on the operating budgets of organizations of all sizes. We also heard from the field that they want us as an agency to share the outcomes and impacts of the program. That includes data and stories with more frequency. In other words, to tell you, reflect back to you the work that this program does and the impact it makes across the state. And so we took all of that learning into account. And you can actually read the consultant's full report on our website, and we'll drop a link in the chat to that full report so that you can see not only their executive summary, but the full series of recommendations that they made around the work that the program should be doing in the future. It's really important for us as an agency to not only adopt a cultural equity statement to help guide our work, but as we were thinking about how the program should and could be more impactful, we needed to really think about what the program's impact should be. And so we asked the field, what, in a perfect world, what should the impact of the Arts Organization Support Program be? And we gave, through our survey, a series of options, and the field, two particular impact areas rose to the top. 85% of respondents said that the AOS program should make a meaningful impact on the organizations it funds. And then second, right under that, was 66% responded that this program should provide increased access to underrepresented, under-resourced areas and groups. So grounded in the process changes we understood from the field that needed to happen to make the program more impactful, and then also understanding the two big guide star impact areas that the field told us that they wanted the program to address, which was meaningful impact to organizations and increased access. We launched into a series of changes to the program. And I'm going to now pass it to my colleague, Paige Sharp, who will start to walk you through some of the process changes, as well as the funding changes that are coming to the program.
I'm going to unmute myself here. So thanks so much, Maya. And I will go over the changes, and then we certainly have some time at the end to address the questions that y'all may have. So just keep them to yourself, and then we'll fire away and respond to you after we discuss some of these changes. So the first part is talk about the general process changes, and then the second part we talked about the funding changes. But in terms of process, and this is again to focus on increasing service and access to under-resourced areas, think rural, and groups. The first thing that we looked at was who could be eligible for the program. And so we made the change that any organization that has a minimum budget of $20,000 could be eligible for the program. Certainly there are other eligibility factors. And when we talk about 20,000, that would be reflected in the organization's most recently completed fiscal year. And we'll be looking at the total cash revenue, not in kind, but just cash, and looking at the revenue. So, and again, it's the organization's fiscal year cycle. It could be a calendar year. It could be a regular fiscal year. And we will be asking for a financial statement in the application to confirm that. In addition, we do highly recommend that any organization that has not been funded in the Arts Organization Support Program previously, that they review the eligibility quiz. Now, this is not something that they will submit to the IAC. This is merely something that they will review themselves. And if they can say yes to each and every one of the questions on that eligibility quiz, then they're more than likely eligible for the program. But if there's any question, we certainly recommend that you contact your regional arts partner, and they can help provide that assurance or let you know where the organization may not be eligible. But here's the key. If the organization submits an application and it's not eligible, then it will not be reviewed for funded. And that may happen until after the deadline, where it's not an opportunity and no longer an option to apply for arts project support, which is also due on March 9th. So it's really important that the organization ensures that it is eligible before it even bothers getting started on the application. The other change that from what we've done in the past is all organizations that are recommended for funding will be on a 2-year cycle. That means two things. One, that the organization, if it's recommended for funding, it will be funded, will get an award for FY24, and it will submit a final report at the end of that year, and then it will get another grant award for the second year, so it won't have to apply every year. It also means that the AOS program is going to be open every other year, not annually. The other change that many of you may notice when you come into the process is we worked to streamline and reflect the input from our consultant analysis and get from the feedback that you all provided. For example, you will notice that if you've been reviewed these guidelines in the past, this set of guidelines is much longer than the ones that you're working under now. That's because the input was that they really wanted to have access to all the information in one place and not have to link to web pages and web pages and web pages. So we, again, are looking to change things based upon the input that y'all provided. And we're also looking to ensure a stronger panel process in general. Strengthening the training process and looking to make sure that the feedback that you get is actionable. Now let's take a look at what we're going to be looking at for funding. So the IEC, as Maya mentioned earlier, we worked with a consultant and to help us create a new funding strategy and a framework. And what we wanted was, again, to reflect that field input, but also get a process that was very scientific and very systematic in order to reduce bias and maximize the efficiency of what culminated into essentially what's a tool. And this tool empowers us to make any key changes to get to the best possible solution. We know that every year or every other year in this program, the number of applications will change. We could have a different amount of dollars going into the program altogether. And we could change maybe some of the funding priorities over time. So we're going to be using this framework for many years to come. We really wanted to empower us to make those changes as we needed to reflect the needs of the work that we're doing. Now, one of the most important changes that we have that we really want to share with you today is that in order to get meaningful impact to organizations and increase access to under-resourced areas and groups, we project that approximately 75% of eligible applications will be funded. Now, that may not sound like a big deal to you. The difference is, from our perspective, is that for many, many years now, we have funded 98 to 100% of the applications that were submitted to the Arts Organization Support Program. In fact, in this year, FY23, 100% of the applicants were funded. So that is kind of a big change for us. Now, this is a little insight into how it's going to work. So the applicants will submit the applications, and we will sort the applications will be sorted into 5 different tiers. So they'll be grouped into one of 5 different tiers. The smallest tier would be for the smaller budget sizes, and then goes all the way up to tier E, which is the largest budget sizes, and gradations in between. A percentage of the applicants from within each tier will be awarded funds based upon their score, along with a priority to under-resourced groups. And that could be rural or organizations that are operated by and serving, let's say, individuals of a specific group, like could be disabilities, could be persons of color, things of that matter. And they would get a slight bump. For those that are funded, we do project that the award sizes will increase for most of the applicants. Now on this slide, I want to take what I just said and show you kind of what I mean. So on the left side of the screen, you'll see what the budget tiers that I just talked about, A being the smallest budget size organizations down to E, which is going to be the largest budget size organizations. And to be clear, we will not be making this categorical decision on exactly what amount to what amount. The system, the tool that I reference is going to do that for us. And everything's going to be equaled out as much as possible. I also mentioned that a percentage of applications within that tier would be funded. And this is what I mean here. Our smaller organizations are the ones that, based upon field input, that we are wanting to support the most. So we have 95% of those applications will be funded, for example. And we see gradations as we go down the scale to category E, which is our largest budget sized organizations. You can also see to the right that the average FY23 grant award compared to the column next to it, you see the growth in the award for those applicants that are funded. And in the far right column, that's the percent of increase for each of these categories. Now, how did we arrive at these numbers? This is a data set that we put together based upon information that you all have, many of you that are currently funded in the program, submitted to us. And then we projected additional organizations that could be potentially applying this next year as well. And this is the results that we got. So this is hypothetical, but it is based on a very strong set of data. I also want to make sure that you very clearly understand these are averages. There could be more, there definitely could be less. And the amount of the award is going to be in concert with the score. I also want to make sure that that's abundantly clear. But the core thing is that there will be an increase, more than likely, to most of the applicants that are funded in the Arts Organization Support Program with these structural changes. Now, the next steps are that tomorrow you will receive in a link and an email that we're following up with you, the guidelines, which will also be posted on the IAC website, as well as our regional arts partner websites, who are our partners in administering these funds. We could not do this without our regional arts partners that are so important to us. I also want to make sure that you're aware that the arts project support guidelines will also be live at that time, just in case that you decide that maybe arts project support is a better pathway for your organization. You will have that accessible to make that determination. And again, you can reach out to your regional arts partner who can provide you with even greater guidance. January 4th is the date that the applications will go live in the online system. So you will be able to go into our online grant system and start an application beginning January 4th. I also strongly encourage you to attend one of our application webinars so that you are familiarized and are empowered to do the best you can in our application process. We have two separate webinars, one for returning applicants and one for new applicants. So it could be really customized to the needs of each of these audiences. We also have a webinar on February 7th for folks that would be interested in the project support category. And again, I encourage you to go to these webinars as they occur, just so that if you have a question, we will be readily available to provide an immediate response to you, as well as hear the response to questions that some of your colleagues may have. Now, we will have a link to the recording of those webinars in the applications after they are completed. So you still have that available to you as a resource. And I also want to let you know that having the guidelines available to you as you work through the application can be helpful as well. Now, the application deadline is March 9th, and that time has changed. It's March 9th at 11:59 p.m. So based upon feedback again from folks out there, they're like, you should make it well after work, because some of our folks are volunteers and they need the extra time after a traditional work day to be able to submit the application. Just be aware that IAC staff will not be available should you have any technical difficulties at that late time of night. April 11th is when we will have information about the panel review process. IAC's Arts Organization Support Program and Project Support Program both are reviewed by grant panelists, and we will have the panel, public panel dates posted. Those panels will occur on Zoom. And then our commission will vote on funding recommendations June 9th, which is a Friday, and we will notify applicants of their application status, funded or not funded, June 12th. And so that's what to expect here coming up in the next day and moving forward. And that's it from me as a base overview of the program changes that we anticipate. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and address any questions that you all may have. We have quite a few of you wonderful folks out there in Zoom land. So you could just raise your hand, or you can chuck a question, or, you know, be bold and fire away at will. Up to you guys. If you have any questions, we'd love to provide the answers for you. Philip?
Yes. So the AOS, can you apply for both the AOS and the project?
Got to choose one or the other.
You got to choose one or the other. Okay. And then, so will you be sharing more information about the project grants? So help us determine which way we want to go.
Yes, absolutely. We will have the project support and arts organization. So our guidelines will both go live tomorrow on our websites, and you will have them linked in a follow-up email. So that'll be readily available to you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I thank you for your information, and I'm new to this process. This is my first year with my organization, going to be submitting an application. Having a little challenge with the UEI number. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that.
You are in company of many, many, many. And I think some of you on this call may have even gone through the UEI process. I can tell you this, it is federally required. And if we didn't have to require it, we would not require it. But unfortunately, it's something that's required of us. So in terms of navigating through the UEI process, unfortunately, the best bet is to utilize the resources on sam.gov's platform. Right. Because I can't troubleshoot something that I did not build, unfortunately. Otherwise, I would be happy to help if I could.
One other question. As a new applicant, I have to leave this meeting and train somebody who's actually going to be putting in the application.
Okay.
And I wanted to give them an idea. They asked me as I was coming into this meeting, how long does this take to fill out the application? And so I know it's different for everybody depending on the information you have gathered, but can you ballpark that a little bit for me?
Oh my goodness. I would say that it will take at least 2 hours, There are multiple components to the application. The most valuable and time intensive is going to be the narrative questions. I would highly recommend that the person who applies reads the application in its entirety before responding. Read it all first.
Can you get a copy of the application online to look at, to prepare before you get onto the computer, or is it only on the computer?
It will be, we can link the PDF on our webpage. So when it does go live, we'll make sure to have a PDF that's also available that you can click on and open and review before getting started. The most important amount of time will be spent on the 4 narrative questions. Each of the 4 narrative questions align with the review criteria, and they have multiple parts to make sure that you have enough guidance to respond to all elements of the criteria.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You got it.
I have William, yes, I have a couple questions that's very related. The Arts Project Support Grant Stream, is it undergoing a revision of its processes parallel to this that we need to know about? And are you anticipating a shift of where people are likely to apply, and is the funding stream being revised to reflect that potential shift in which category people will be applying?
The Arts Project Support Program has not been changed from last year. So that's something that we anticipate reviewing this coming calendar year to implement changes for FY25. But as it stands now, the Project Support Program is the same as it has been for the last couple of years, barring a few minor changes to questions. The amount of funding going into that program, we're not entirely sure how much funding, if anything, is going into our programs yet, because we don't have our budget, and we don't get our budget until the end of April, beginning of May, if things go along the way they should be. We do anticipate that there will be an increase in the number of folks that apply to Arts Project Support than there has been in the past, just because there's more awareness of the program opportunities. So that's basically, I think, addresses most of your questions. Is there something that I missed?
No, that's okay.
Okay, great. Stephanie Carlson?
So one of the things that I want to address, and I want to make sure that you clarify for me, is when looking at the applicants, we would be, with the embassy, we would be one of the larger in like tier E, I think is where it is. So it looks like having 100% of the organizations funded this year, we're going to be cut to only 40% of those organizations being funded this year. And I also heard that it will no longer be a regional competition for that funding. It will be statewide. Is that correct?
At this time, we have decided that the largest categories that IAC this upcoming cycle will run that panel review process essentially. In conversations with the regional arts partners, we felt like that would be the best route to go.
What do you mean by run that regional arts, regional panel process? Like we're still going to stay regional?
Well, for the regional arts partners for both AOS and Arts Organization Support and Arts Project Support, they have managed the panel review process for any application in their location, except for the Arts Organization Support Category 3, right, which is what Embassy has been included in the past. So we are now doing just one arts organization support program. But the largest size budget organizations, because in part, historically, since the IAC has been managing that process, we are going to continue to manage that process centrally. And the part of the other element is to have organizations that are of relative size being paneled together in some ways, so that it just empowers a better process.
Okay, so I'm not sure if I was clear with my question. So before, when we applied for the AOS, we were applying and within our region. So we were the money was allocated through regionally, right? Now it looks to be that it will be allocated to where, like, if we are applying for funding, we would be, for lack of a better term, competing against those in Indianapolis, those in Gary, all of those different, and we would be looking at that statewide. Is that correct or no?
So Stephanie, Paige, and Victoria, I'll jump in if that's okay.
Thanks,
So,
Mia or Maya.
yeah, that's okay. So I wanted to be clear that when you panel for organizations that go through the panel process, you aren't competing with other organizations. You are being paneled and evaluated with the evaluation criteria in mind. And so each application is looked at as a unique entity and how well it tells its story and how well it addresses the evaluation criteria. So I want to be clear, just want to make sure I'm framing that up and that everyone hears that. As it relates to when Paige talked earlier about the need and the opportunity to enhance support for panelists, what we want to do is match the panelists to the kind of organization, the size, budget organization, and the complexity of the organization that they're paneling. And the reason to put large budget organizations together and small budget organizations together potentially is that each group of organizations, as it relates to their budget and complexity, are different. Different needs and challenges for both. And so the reason we're paneling the largest together in particular is that so we can bring panelists in particular that have experience and have the knowledge and the ability to look at applications from organizations that may have a regional focus or may have a different kind of set of moving parts that other organizations may not have. So, and it would be the same set of considerations for smaller organizations that have unique challenges and unique sets of moving parts that larger organizations might not have. So, Stephanie, I hope I've answered your question well enough there. Great, fantastic. Who else? I'm scrolling through it. I don't see any other hands up.
Cyrus? Oh, you're muted, Cyrus.
Yes, will this slide deck be available, or is it available now?
Connie?
Hi, Cyrus. Thanks so much for your question. The slide deck will be shared tomorrow in the follow-up email along with a recording of this conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
I thought I'd offer some advice to the gentleman who was applying for the UEI number. We're kind of challenged with that also. And it helps if you have all your documents for proof of identification. You've gathered them in advance, copied and converted them into PDF so you can load them right when you're filling out the application. Our experience was if you had to sign off and go, track something down, you had to start over again. And they have their own sort of terminology, which wasn't real clear. So the application itself isn't really that difficult. Understanding how they phrase some of the requests was confusing, but be sure to have all your documents gathered before you begin, and then you should be able to go straight through it fairly easily and get a confirmation, I believe, right away. And then you get a confirmation, further confirmation about 10 days later.
Thank you.
For proof of identification, we used our proof of incorporation and a bank statement that had sort of confidential information redacted, but it showed our mailing address as well as the name of our organization was clear on it.
I just want to direct the gentleman who asked the question, who's going to be submitting his application for the first time. While I think it was said that it's 2 hours, I just hope he's been paying attention in the chat as far as the gathering of the information. Some are saying it's about a week and others are concurring. So to gather all the information you will need to complete that application. So while the application process itself sounded like it was 2 hours, it sounds like the preparation for that 2 hours is upwards of 40 hours. So I just wanted to make that note since just in case he wasn't paying attention to the notes in the chat.
I was me, and I've been reading the chat, and some read a couple hours, some read they're still working on it past 4 or 5 years now. what I've done is I've gathered everything I think they would possibly ask already, all in one long form with everything broken down. So hopefully I can cut and paste and put it into the document fairly straightforwardly. I just don't know if I'm missing a piece that that I just didn't know about. That's why I was glad to hear about the PDF that it'll tell me what the questions actually are, and I can be even more prepared when I actually fill it out.
Yeah, the key things, it's 2 hours to complete at minimum, right? So, and definitely the due diligence to prepare and even start responding to the questions is really key.
Yeah.
And kind of thinking through how you're going to respond to each of the narrative questions is a really important starting point.
Sure.
Other than that, it's the financial statement, but it is a different application that we've had in the past for sure. But it will take time. There's no doubt about it.
Well,
Dave?
Yes, I'm off mute. When it comes to the government number, it's entirely possible that your organization already has one, only you don't know that you do, and therefore you don't know what it is. And one of the searches you can do on the website will help you to find out if you have a number and what it is, if you already do. I wish I could tell you what I did. I tried about 17 things and one of them worked. And now I know what our number is, and I have only had to email the good folks at IAC twice to ask them to remind me what it is.
I want to jump in real quick, just to sort of reiterate some comments and questions around process changes. Before you launch into the application itself, read the guidelines really carefully. They will not only talk about and address the areas that the application will be asking about, but then they will also tell you the kind of information that you need to assemble for upload to the document. So before you dive into the application itself, spend some time with the guidelines and know that in the application itself, we have done quite a bit of work related to streamlining the number of questions that we ask, and again, trying to keep the application questions down to the absolute bare minimum that panelists need to review applications and make thoughtful, actionable feedback comments for you. So again, read that application carefully and make some notes, and then jump into the application and take a look. But I think what you'll see is a more streamlined application than you've seen in the past. And the same with the final grant report, which we will also be streamlining, which Paige did not touch on, but we will be streamlining the final grant report process as well.
Maya, with this streamline, which I think is great in getting this, will we be able to collect more data to show like the impact of, because that's my thing, with sitting with you all and working with the strategic framework of everything, the questions that have changed, are they directly impacted for us to collect, to ask for more on a bigger scale? I'm talking about as far as Indiana Arts Commission as a whole.
Yeah, great question. So
like,
I think,
are we going to be able to contractual for the state to be able to ask for more funding in that to
sure.
show, hey, this is how we helped rural communities expand because we made these changes. I love that, you know, of how, and I hope other organizations that are in the E category, like with us, I think we're in D or E, one of those, don't feel this. I think this makes it a very even playing field, more so than being competitive, to really see where the dollars are being held in it, and how can we collaborate on those dollars to make them impactful to spread out. So thank you for doing that. I'm very excited about that. But that was my biggest concern, because I know that was one of the questions that was on our task force, you know, that was asked, was like, what's the impact? How are we gauging that? How are we, and this is how in these applications. So I'm just wondering, are those questions geared towards that?
Yes, and it's certainly the way we have it structured this time. We'll be giving organizations an opportunity to tell their story within the 4 evaluative criteria. which is organizational excellence, community engagement, artistic quality, and inclusion, diversity, equity, and access. So we'll be asking organizations to tell their particular story and how it meets the evaluative criteria around those 4 areas. And then Lakeisha will be able to, when the field asks us to tell the story of the impact of this program, the changes that we make in this program related to eligibility, there are going to be stories about who had access to this program, who didn't previously, and which communities and organizations were served as a result of the changes we're making in the program. But in particular, in the final grant report questions, we'll be seeking to understand the impacts of the funding, more specifically related to telling our story, not just telling our story as a sector, but telling our story to decision makers that help drive investment to the Arts Commission and then to your respective organizations. So we hope that this application process helps you tell the story of your impact in your own communities as well.
Yes, and I hope that especially in the EDI area, I'm glad that you changed it, that we're allowed to tell the story and not just check the box.
Yeah.
To really show that we're honestly doing the work in that particular area, that we're able to, because everybody's story is different in that area as well. So I'm glad that that's just not a box checker now, that it's really us to be able to explain that and really get to see what that looks like, so that we can continue to do the work in that particular area as a whole, as a state in the arts organization. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thanks, Lakeisha. Great question. Other questions?
Looks like
Yes.
Philip's got his hand raised.
Yes.
Philip, would you like to, sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, it's all right. Question is, you were talking about streamlining, is the demographics, because I think with each organization, some organizations where they're structured, it's very easy, and others that it's it's hard to tell as far as who's coming through the door. Is there any changes on the demographics?
So Paige, yeah, go ahead, Paige.
The demographic questions actually come from the National Endowment for the Arts. That's a required questions from us that we pass along to our grantees that they complete in the final grant report. We have heard from the NEA that they do anticipate making changes to those questions, but I have yet to see any changes shared quite yet. But I do understand that they will be coming. The final grant report that we developed this past summer was had some additional questions that we used to try to gauge any growth over time on the aggregate level. But in terms of the application itself and talking about the folks that the organization serves, that's going to be in a narrative context, and you can share that based upon what you're aware of with regard to your audience.
That is an interesting question. I was just on an NEA. They're still trying to work out how is that going to be equitable, because it is different. You know, I'll use my community as an example. Like, I am a minority in my community, opposed to if I was in Indianapolis, that would be a totally different story than being here. So what does that look like? Am I still doing my EDI work? Absolutely. In that, but it looks, like I said, it looks different in telling the story. And I think that's where they were going with taking away from the boxes of it and really listen to the story of what you have to say, because on a box, it would look like, oh, Wagon Wheel is not doing the work. Like, they're not meeting the demographic. They're not trying to, you know, when that's not what our makeup is. So in definitely breaking down, they're trying to go back to the narratives and where you can have the graphs to compare, but it's not all about the graphs anymore. So that is very, and it's, you know, it's not so hardcore on you too as an organization. I think they're just trying to streamline it in what I think they're playing with it, kind of like how, you know, trying to see what's working best, because a lot of this is new work that's happening. So that's why I just want the state of Indiana to get it right, for us to come out on top and not being like other states, like the state of New York, setting the tone for what it is when every state is different. But I just want to make sure that our voice get heard for what we serve and what we do, because we are that rural, but we also have that city feel too, you know, across our state. So I'm excited. I'm really excited to see what this outcome is going to be, and you know, for NIA and to help them. You know, I don't want the state of Indiana to think that we don't have a voice in helping them structure that. That's why I joined that that particular webinar to talk about that, and I was very vocal in that, you know, and making that clear that I don't want us to be in the box about this, because every organization is serving to its capacity of what that needs are, and that story should be told and not a checkbox.
Yeah, that is absolutely great. And then the application empowers you to tell that story. The NEA has the challenge of translating what's happening into the field into some sort of data to provide that input or impact to the folks that they serve or they represent, which is of course the legislature. It's a challenge to do that with qualitative feedback, because you know, there's tagging involved in terms of how many times these people say this word, you know, so I recognize that the challenges that they have, just know that you're empowered to provide the storyline in the application. And but we are going to be as brief as possible in the final grant report, because we're also hearing from folks in the field that this is a lot of work. This is a lot of work. We recognize it's a lot of work. And so we want to streamline it in the areas that we can best streamline and provide a greater focus and storytelling and way to empower that process in the application itself, where it's the most meaningful, because that's where the funding is tied. Other questions? Well, you have other opportunities to learn from us and our regional arts partners. Again, we have the 2 webinars that are coming up in January, and that will look at application questions and provide more insight on what the IAC is looking for. But those questions are intimately tied to the evaluation criteria itself. So, but we will continue to provide more and more information, because again, we want to make sure that you have the best resources and understanding possible to be successful in this process. Dave, you unmuted. Did you have another question?
Oh, no, I'm just unmuting just in case.
Oh, opportunity to chat for it. Okay, great.
But you asked me to talk, so I did. Since I'm on, do you have times yet for the webinars?
Oh, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
For both of them? Perfect.
For both of them, yeah.
Thank you.
For all
I'm muting.
3. Okay, great.
So be on the lookout for a follow-up email with all of this laid out tomorrow, along with links to the guidelines. And Connie, remind me, places to register for the webinars, or just
Will be available in tomorrow's email as well.
Right, fantastic. Lots coming away. So
yeah, this is going to be a big email. Elaine?
Yeah, just a quick question. In my video, it's not working. About those webinars that are coming up in January, I know that I'm not going to be available on the day for the returning applicants. Are those going to be recorded?
Yeah, they'll be recorded, and we also will link to the recording out of the application itself. In the application, there's a before you begin section. Traditionally, that's where we link all of the resources that we have available to applicants in that section.
Okay, great. I mean, normally I would attend that, but I know that I will not be able to that day, so I'll listen to the recording.
All right, great. Thanks, Elaine.
Or read it in the application. Thank you.
You got it. You got it. Sylvia, did you have a question? Andre seemed to indicate that you might. And we don't want to slide over you if you have a question. Okay, if not, we're always an email away, that's for sure. You guys are like, are there any other questions out there? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you for all your information.
Oh, you got it, Glenn, and good luck to you with your first application. I'm sure you guys will do great.
Thank you.
Prepare, prepare, prepare. That's the big,
Right.
that's where the big money's at, really.
Hello.
Oh, love our Lakeisha. All right, kids. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to
Thank
us.
you for doing this. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. We appreciate all the work that you guys do. You guys are the ones that make the magic out there. We so appreciate you.
We want you to be able to bring the magical money. Hey, make it rain. Okay.
All right, great.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks, appreciate
Thanks,
your time.
everybody.
Thank
Thanks
you,
for your
ladies.
time. Y'all stay warm and safe.
Happy holidays all.
Yeah.